Welcome. Today this instructional video is on multiplying decimals. So before we start on a practice problem, let's quickly go over the steps. So first, the numbers are lined up by the last digit, not by the decimal point. This is important. Step 2, we're going to multiply the bottom digit by each top digit. Now this will be slightly different when there are more than one digit on the bottom number, and we will see an example like that. Step 3, when you have an answer, you will count how many digits come after a decimal point in both numbers. And then step 4, starting at the last digit on the right, you will move the decimal point the same number of places that you counted in step 3. So these steps will help us with all of our problems today. We're going to start with this problem right here. So you can see that my numbers are lined up by the last digit, the 7 and the 5, and not by the decimal point. My bottom number does not look like it has a decimal point, but because it's a whole number, I don't have to show the decimal, but it's right here. So I just used blue to put that decimal point in there. And you can see that those are not lined up together because we don't have to do that in multiplication. So now we multiply our bottom digit by each top digit. So first starting with 5 times 7, which is 35. When we get a 2-digit answer, we need to carry our tens place to the next digit. 5 times 0 is 0. Plus 3. Whenever we have carried numbers up here, we add those. So 0 plus 3 is 3. Now, the whole time we're doing this, we are ignoring those decimal points for now. Last number, 5 times 4 is 20. That is also a 2-digit answer, but we are out of digits, so we can just write 20 right here. Okay, now comes step 3. We're going to count how many digits come after a decimal point in both numbers. Don't forget, we need to include both numbers. So I have 1 digit after a decimal point on my top number, and I don't have any after the 5. When my decimal is here, I just have a bunch of zeros back here, and I don't need to count those. So I just have 1 digit after a decimal point. Now on step 4, starting from the last digit on the right. So on this right side right here, that's where the decimal is when I can't see it. We're going to move that decimal point the same number of places we counted in step 3, which is just 1. So we move it in 1 place, and it goes right here. So our answer is 203 5/10. Okay, let's try another one. This time we have more digits on the bottom, so we'll see what to do when that happens. So this is 21 5/10 times 42 hundredths. So starting with our first digit here, smallest digit, to the one right above, 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 1, again, ignoring that decimal point and skipping right over it. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. Now before we start to multiply our other digits, because we have a 4 right here that we need to multiply, we're going to first put a placeholder 0 right here in that first digit place because our answer needs to line up with the 4. So we're going to put a placeholder 0 right here so our answer for that can line up with the 4. Then we're also going to cross out these carried numbers that we have above so we don't get those confused with our next row. So now, starting with our 4, our next row, we're going to still multiply that by the first digit over here. 4 times 5 is 20. The 2 carries over here to the 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. Now we do have a 0 over here on the other side of the decimal point, but 0 times anything is just going to be 0. So I don't have to do a row of zeros because I'm about to add these numbers up. And I don't need to add an extra row of zeros. So adding the numbers up, we have 0 plus 0 is 0. 3 plus 0 is 3. 4 plus 6 is 10. Carry the 1. And then 1 plus 8 is 9. Okay, now let's figure out how many places we need to move our decimal point. So in our top number, 21 and 5/10, I have one digit after a decimal point. In my bottom number, 42 hundredths, I have 2 digits after a decimal point, and that makes 3 digits altogether. So 3 digits altogether. So at the end of my number right here, I need to move this in 3 places. 1, 2, 3. And my decimal is going to go right here, which makes my answer 9 3/100. This is the hundredths place. And I don't have to put this 0 after here. I don't have to put that 0 there because anytime I have extra zeros after my decimal point, then those don't change the value of my numbers. So I don't have to include those. So my answer is just 9 3/100. All right, let's try one last one. This one has 4 digits on top and 3 digits on the bottom. And again, my decimal points don't line up, and that's okay. It doesn't matter until the end. All I need is for my last digits to be lined up. All right, here we go. So first, 8 times 6 is 48. Carry the 4. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 4 is 12. Carry that 1. 8 times 9, 72. Plus 1 is 73. 8 times 2, 16. Plus 7 should be 23. All right, before I start my row with the 4, my second number, I'm going to put a placeholder 0, and I'm going to cross out all these carried numbers up there. All right, now I'm ready to start with my 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. 4 times 9 is 36. Carry that 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. Okay, now this time I have a third digit over here. I have a 6 on the bottom that I still need to multiply. And you do not need to draw all these lines in between the numbers if you don't want to. Sometimes it helps keep track of what you've already done, but if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. So before I start with my 6, I'm again going to put a placeholder 0 here, but I also need to put another placeholder 0 right here because my 6 is lined up here, and so my answer needs to start here. So I have 2 placeholder 0s this time, and then I'm still going to cross out these carried numbers up here. All right, so now let's start, and 6 times 6. We still go back to the first digit of our top number. 6 times 6 is 36. Carry that 3. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3 is 9. 6 times 9 is 54. And 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 5 is 17. It's a lot of numbers this time, but I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, and I'm going to add all of this up. And then I can figure out where my decimal goes afterward. So 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 4 plus 0 is 6. 3 plus 6 plus 6 is 15. Carry that 1. Now I have 1 plus 3 plus 6 plus 9. That's a lot of numbers. I'm going to go ahead and add my 9 and my 1 first, because that's going to make an even 10. And then 3 and 6 is 9. So 10 plus 9 is 19. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 4 should be 8. And 1 plus 7 is 8. And then nothing plus that last one is just going to be 1. Wow, that's a pretty big number. Let's see where my decimal is going to go. I'm going to count my digits in my first number, 29 and 1600ths. That's the top number. I have 1, 2 digits there. In my bottom number, 64 and 8/10, I have 1 digit there. Altogether, that's 3 digits. So let's put my decimal in. Starting here, we're going to move it 3 places. 1, 2, 3, right here. Wow, and that's still a pretty big number, even when we move the decimal point in. So I have 1,889 and 568 thousandths. This is my thousandths place all the way out here. And that concludes our multiplying decimals video. See you next time.